In the 5th year after my biological parents brought me back, they cooked a whole table of dishes for me for the first time. I couldn't feel happy at all. They planned to hand over the company I had built with my own blood and sweat to my adoptive brother. Instead of getting angry, I agreed on the spot, because I had been reborn. In my previous life, I fought that decision with everything I had, only to be framed for infidelity by my adoptive brother. Trying to save my marriage and my parents' affection, I took the fall for his arson case and went to prison. When I finally got out, I was abandoned on the street. My wife married my adoptive brother, and even my daughter called him Dad. My biological parents stood by and watched as I died of illness. So, after I was reborn, the first thing I did was accept the invitation of the city's richest woman and become her adopted son. On the day my wife remarried my adoptive brother, I would send them a special gift. I wanted everyone who hurt me to learn what life felt like when I wasn't there to shield them, how cold and unbearable the heavy rain could be. Mr. Wang, once you sign this inheritance agreement, you'll officially become Madame Chan's son. Madame has no children and places great hopes on you. Please don't disappoint her, the old butler said, handing me exactly what I'd asked for. Proof of my staged death. A critical illness notice that said I had late-stage leukemia and only 1 month to live. I nodded. Please tell Madame Chan that 1 month from now, George will no longer exist. There will only be her son, David Chan. Bathed in the glow of sunset, my car sped down the road toward home. I sat in the back seat, quiet, masking a thin sadness as I stared out the window. No one knew that 3 days earlier, I had been reborn. In my last life, I was kidnapped at 7 and taken to a remote village. Heartbroken, my parents adopted a boy my age named Makoto. 10 years later, when I was finally found, they already had a deep bond with their adopted son. Their love for me, their biological son, was lukewarm at best. Luckily, I was capable. Within 5 years, I led Wang Group to go public, elevating our family's status in City A. Then Makoto set a fire that injured people and was looking at 10 years in prison. My parents, desperate to save him, even knelt to beg me. George, you grew up in the mountains. You're tough. Your brother Makoto is different. He's been pampered. If he goes to prison, he'll never survive. My wife, Willow, kept promising, George, no matter what happens, Alicia and I will always love you. We'll wait for you to come home. I endured 10 long years behind bars. On the day of my release, other inmates were picked up by their families, one by one. I waited from dawn to dusk, but no car from the Wangs or the Luce ever appeared. While I was inside, Makoto took my place as the celebrated CEO. The woman who swore she'd wait for me married him in my 2nd year in prison, and my daughter started calling him Dad. When I learned the truth, my hair turned white overnight. Near the end, I lay dying in a muddy alley when a luxury car pulled up and Alicia stepped out in expensive clothes. She wrinkled her nose in disgust. Dad, why did you bring me to see this beggar? I don't want to look at him. Under a black umbrella, my parents clung to Makoto's arms, their eyes cold and disdainful. How could we have birthed such a disgraceful son? The Wang family's reputation is ruined. Willow stood farthest away. I reached out a trembling hand. She turned her face aside. Now I was back in the year Makoto committed his crime, and this time I would abandon them first. When I opened my front door, I heard Alicia throwing a tantrum in the living room. I don't want Dad, I want Uncle. Uncle buys me toys and takes me for ice cream. Dad just makes me do things I hate. I hate him. I listened in silence, biting my lower lip as pain pierced my heart. Alicia had a sensitive stomach. Even while I managed thousands at work, I made sure she ate properly. Makoto gave her whatever she wanted and became closer to her than a real father. Years of careful love had bought me only her hatred. After being reborn, I decided I'd never care for her again. I walked into the living room without so much as a glance at her and told the maid calmly, "Open the fridge and bring out all the ice cream. From now on, the young lady can eat whatever she wants, do whatever she wants. No one is allowed to stop her." Alicia stared at me in shock. "Really?" "Really," I said, looking at her with no warmth. "You want to see your uncle? I'll take you later. You can stay at the old house as long as you like. Even if you never came back, that would be fine. She cheered and ran off to pack her little backpack. I looked at Willow, the delicate, gentle face that had once fooled me into taking the blame for Makoto. Knowing how cold she truly was, I felt only boredom and indifference. Under my gaze, she grew uneasy, her elegant brows tightening. "You're not yourself today." "What happened?" I curled a lip. "Nothing. I just realized I don't want to live such a tiring life anymore." Soon, I'd fake my death and vanish from the Wang family registry. Whatever happened to Wang Group would have nothing to do with me. As for Willow and Alicia, they would no longer be my wife and daughter. Why should I exhaust myself for others? A slender hand settled on my shoulder. Willow gave it a gentle squeeze, her voice soft as water. "Then when will you spend more time with us, George? Even if you stop working, our family has more than enough to ensure you and Alicia live in luxury. Why put yourself through hardship?" My body went stiff. I remembered how she'd tricked me into taking the blame in my past life, shrugged off her hand, and stared hard at her. She looked even more uncomfortable. Just as the tension peaked, I suddenly smiled, as if that earlier chill had been a mirage. "Come back to the old house with me. I have an announcement." At the Wang family's old estate, Alicia ran straight into Makoto's arms, laying it on thick. "Uncle, I missed you so much." "Uncle, you look so handsome today." "Uncle, your smile is so charming." At home, she was a little tyrant, but in front of Makoto, she was sugar. I stood aside, expression calm. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Willow looking at him with indulgent affection. When she noticed me noticing, she quickly looked away, just as Makoto, holding Alicia's hand and dressed in matching parent-child outfits with her, walked over. "Sis-in-law, look at the outfits I got for Alicia. Aren't they cute?" He tugged her hand and made a silly face at Willow. Startled, she restrained her smile with me there and gave only a small nod. "Alicia never wears pink. Only you could get her too." Pride flickered across Makoto's face as he turned to me. "Brother, Alicia likes me so much. Are you jealous?" Memories from my last life spun through my head like a film on fast forward. My nails bit into my palm, pain keeping me steady. "George," my father called. "Everything on the table today is your favorite. Come try." I looked over to a spread of home cooking tailored to my light tastes. In my last life, I had a weak stomach and couldn't handle spice, but Makoto loved heat. At every family dinner, the table blazed red, except once, today. My father had personally cooked an entire table of my favorites, a rare event. Just as I thought I'd finally been given a sliver of love, he said the cruelest words. "George, your mother and I discussed it. From now on, you don't need to worry about the company. Focus on the family. We'll leave everything for Makoto to manage." In that moment, the pressure from all sides made me feel like a thief, as if I'd stolen what was rightfully Makoto's. No one remembered that, before the IPO, I'd worked myself into the ICU while Makoto vacationed abroad. No one remembered that when my mother was diagnosed with liver cancer and needed a transplant, I freshly recovered from serious illness, climbed onto the operating table without hesitation. At dinner, Alicia's cheeks flushed as she pressed, "Just give it to Uncle. Why are you so stingy?" Willow's voice was gentle and sweet. "George, even if you don't work, I can support you and Alicia." My mother waved a hand magnanimously. "I'm still the head of this family. This is final." My father's eyes filled with tears as he pleaded, "George, as the older brother, you should let your younger brother have his way." In my past life, I exploded that very day, cut ties with everyone, and swore I'd never give Makoto the company unless I died. Now I looked around the table, mother, father, wife, daughter, and the so-called brother, and smiled calmly. "Mom, Dad, I actually have an announcement. Starting tomorrow, I plan to hand the company over to Makoto and return to family life." Tension melted into joy. My parents beamed with smiles I'd never seen, piling food into my bowl. "George, your filial piety makes us proud." "Makoto's still a bit naive, though," Alicia shrieked. "Long live Uncle!" While food stacked into a mountain I couldn't touch. I lifted my eyes to Willow. Sure enough, she was looking at Makoto with open affection. No one noticed when I slipped away. I didn't return to the company after that family dinner. 10 days later, mid-run on a treadmill, my phone buzzed. Makoto had tagged me. He'd posted a selfie in the CEO's office, all sharp suit and borrowed aura, captioned, "Leading Wang Group into a new era." Within a minute, the family crowd had gathered to cheer. My mother, "Good son, work hard. The future of Wang Group rests on you." My father, "Our Makoto has truly become a man overnight." Alicia, "Uncle is the best. Willow wrote just one word, you can do it." Reading those warm words no one had ever said to me, my eyes stung. The workout's fatigue flooded me. I shut off the treadmill and was about to shower when Makoto sent another message. "Brother, the whole family is throwing me a celebration at Cloud Pavilion tonight. You must come. There's a surprise waiting for you." The final message was a photo, Willow's clothes half off her shoulders, bare skin faintly exposed. No explanation needed. Half an hour later, I pushed open the private room door at Cloud Pavilion. Inside, familiar voices drifted out. "Willow, when will you divorce him? Don't tell me you've actually developed feelings for him." After a pause, Willow's clear, pleasant voice. "How could that be? George is nothing compared to you." "If it weren't for the engagement, I wouldn't have married him." "Makoto, you've just taken over the company. Everything's unstable. I need to stay by your side to help keep him in check." A rush of blood reversed in my veins, dizziness swamping me until a waiter steadied me. "Mr. Wang, are you all right?" "I'm fine," I rasped, eyes red, just as a commotion broke out at the entrance, my parents tipping the staff, faces glowing. I watched, eyes burning, until my father noticed me and forced an awkward smile. "George, why are you here?" They deliberately kept me in the dark, afraid I'd cause a scene, and still I'd shown up. Looking at my father's embarrassment and my mother's displeasure, I felt completely out of place. "I came to support my brother," I said, voice hoarse, gaze dark and wet. "Or am I so worthless now I'm not even allowed at a family gathering?" My pale face made pity hard to resist. My mother frowned, and just as the storm was brewing, a cheerful shout sounded behind me. "Grandma, Grandpa, I made a little red flower in craft class for Uncle. I want to give it to the one I love most." Alicia ran over, mistook me for Makoto, and jumped into my arms with a bright, innocent smile. I hadn't seen that lively affection since she was a baby, when she clung to me everywhere I went. Then she looked up, recognized me, and recoiled as if she'd seen a ghost, hiding the flower behind her back, her eyes full of disgust and wariness. The pain was searing. I stood there silent. The private room door opened. Makoto and Willow stepped out, shoulder to shoulder. Both faces changed when they saw me. Panic flickered in Willow's eyes. She quickly put distance between them, hurried to me and asked gently, "When did you get here? Why didn't you come in?" I looked at the woman I'd shared a bed with for 7 years. I used to think her chilliness was just her nature. Now I knew she'd never loved me. Our marriage was her compromise, a sacrifice to protect another man. My lips twisted into a mocking smile, disappointment dimming my eyes. "This is your family gathering," I said. How would I dare intrude? She froze, a tightness seizing her chest. "George, don't say that." No words could mend the wound. I turned to my parents, calm. "I still have things to do. I won't disturb your reunion." A violent cough racked me as soon as I finished. I covered my mouth. Fresh blood filled my palm. My parents' expressions shifted. Even Willow's fingers twitched. Just as they were about to step toward me, Makoto clutched his chest and cried out, "Mom, Dad, my heart." "It hurts." Instantly, everyone's attention swung to him. My mother calling an ambulance, my father rubbing his chest, Willow racing for emergency meds, Alicia wailing as she chanted, "Uncle, don't hurt!" "I'll let my dad hurt for you instead." I hadn't gone far, but those words made my legs feel like lead. I closed my eyes, gritted my teeth and forced myself on, hailing a cab and heading to the hospital alone. The doctor said my heart had suffered acute emotional distress, no more anger. I stayed home to recover for days. Except for the housekeeper, neither Willow nor any of the Wangs visited. They were all at the hospital with Makoto. No one remembered I was sick too. On New Year's Eve, I boiled frozen dumplings alone. The maids had gone home early to be with their families. Thankfully, the housekeeper had seen how thin and weak I'd become and left homemade dumplings in the freezer. I watched the steam rise, the only warmth in the house. A few days earlier, the property manager suddenly notified me the heating would be cut off. I complained several times. They insisted it couldn't be restored. I knew very well. This was probably Makoto's doing. Outside it was below -10. Inside felt not much better. Bundled in a thick down jacket, I was just about to scoop out the dumplings when Makoto's video call came through. "Brother, we're celebrating New Year on an island. Are you doing okay alone at home?" On the screen, Makoto looked healthy and radiant, wearing a fitted cashmere sweater that was both warm and stylish. Behind him, my mother and father were sipping tea and chatting. And outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Willow and Alicia were lighting fireworks. The warm, joyful atmosphere made my eyes sting. But none of it had anything to do with me. Once again, my entire family had abandoned me, leaving me alone in the cold while they enjoyed a cozy holiday on a tropical island. Yet strangely, I no longer felt sad. I calmly looked into the camera. "I'm doing great. Sorry to disappoint you." Makoto smirked provocatively. "Brother, I heard you coughed up blood the other day. Too bad Mom and Dad were too busy worrying about me to notice. Afraid you might be scammed by some shady doctor, I've frozen your bank cards. If you feel really bad, just drink more hot water, huh?" Ever since he took over the company, he didn't even bother to pretend anymore. A shadow flickered across the screen, and Willow's voice drifted over. "Makoto, who are you talking to?" "No one, just wishing a friend Happy New Year," Makoto said casually, then hung up the call. But even so, I still heard Willow's final words of concern. "Your stomach's weak. Don't drink too much. Be careful not to get a stomachache." They were as close as any real couple. I no longer cared who Willow loved. What I couldn't accept was, even in front of my parents, their intimacy was so blatant, and the two elders turned a blind eye as if it were completely normal. A sharp pain spread through my limbs and tears welled up in my eyes. At that moment, the doorbell rang. The old butler from the Chan family arrived bringing a heap of New Year's gifts. Gifts that Madame Chan had prepared to make up for every New Year she had missed from my birth until now at age 30. "Happy New Year, Mr. Wang. Madam wishes you all the best peace and joy." I had endured my biological family's coldness and betrayal again and again. But facing these carefully prepared gifts, my tears suddenly burst forth uncontrollably. In my 30 years of life, my biological parents had treated me as nothing more than a tool, while Madame Chan, who shared no blood with me, treated me like a true son. Deeply moved, I wiped away my tears and said solemnly, 10 days from now, I'll be at the Chan residence right on time. By then, I would truly be reborn. I'd only opened half the gifts before I drifted into a deep sleep on the sofa. In the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by a noise upstairs. I was a light sleeper. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a shadowy figure wandering in the dark. Suddenly, a memory from my past life hit me. A thief had broken into my home once. That time, a strange woman had barged into my bedroom, and when Willow caught us, she assumed I had been unfaithful. From then on, our relationship had soured. Soon after, rumors about me spread throughout our social circle. The entire Wang family treated me like a disgrace, and, combined with Makoto's arson scandal at the time, they had tacitly allowed me to take the blame. This time I reacted quickly. I dashed into the first-floor bathroom, called the Chan family, and asked the butler to immediately return with reinforcements. Just as the strange woman was about to smash a window and force her way in, the butler and his men arrived and pinned her to the ground. After giving my statement at the police station, I returned home past midnight. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Makoto and the others sitting neatly in the living room waiting for me. The New Year's gifts from Madame Chan were also neatly stacked in the corner. Makoto picked up a limited edition watch, his eyes wide with amazement. "Brother, we weren't even home for New Year's. Who sent you such expensive gifts?" If I'm not mistaken, this watch is one of those rare collector's editions everyone dreams of, right? "Brother, you wouldn't happen to be cheating on sis-in-law behind her back, would you?" Makoto trailed off, giving Willow a meaningful look. Willow's beautiful face clouded over with anger. Lifting her gaze, she said coldly, "George, I really underestimated you. Watching her act so serious, I couldn't help but find it funny. Even though she didn't have me in her heart, she could still get furious at the thought that I might be cheating." If I hadn't overheard her saying she had never loved me that day, maybe I would have believed there was a shred of real affection. These gifts belong to a friend. I'm just keeping them for now. My tone was casual. I didn't care whether they believed me or not. The wound on my arm throbbed painfully, and as I was about to grab the first aid kit, Willow suddenly grabbed my wrist. She wasn't her usual gentle self. Her eyes were dark and unfamiliar, her lips pressed tightly together. After a moment, she pointed at the women's shawl on the floor and questioned me coldly. "What kind of woman leaves her shawl at a male friend's house?" She tightened her grip. As I struggled, my wound was tugged, sending a sharp pain shooting through me. I gasped involuntarily. Willow immediately let go, looking at me strangely. I didn't even use any strength," she muttered, as if explaining to herself. But when she saw the blood oozing from my arm, her expression changed drastically. She frowned and asked, "You're hurt. How could you even get injured at home on New Year's Eve?" She looked at me with a mix of disdain and concern, her fingers hesitantly reaching toward my wound. Before she could touch me, I lifted my cold gaze to meet hers. Willow's hand froze mid-air. "What's with that look?" she asked. After a long moment of staring, I turned and walked to the first-floor bathroom, pulling the door open with a loud bang. The wreckage inside immediately caught Willow's eyes. My mother and father looked equally stunned. Seeing their reactions, I let out a cold laugh. A burglar broke in. I almost didn't live to see tomorrow, and all you could think about since earlier was catching me cheating. My mother and father exchanged a glance, but said nothing. Willow let out a soft sigh and walked toward me, her voice filled with guilt. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone at home. Save those words for after I'm dead." I felt nothing inside. My gaze turned cold as I looked at Makoto. "I'm curious," I said slowly. "Security in this upscale neighborhood is notoriously tight. Why would a woman risk breaking in on New Year's Eve? Did she know ahead of time that I'd be the only one at home?" At my words, Makoto's eyes flickered for a split second before he forced a calm reply. "Maybe she had been keeping an eye on you for a while. Or maybe you two knew each other before. Who knows?" I let out a short, mocking laugh and nodded. "Fine. If she's that dangerous, we should file a police report and open an investigation." "Don't report it!" Makoto's voice suddenly rose sharply. His unusual reaction made everyone look at him. My mother and father seemed to realize something. Their faces turned pale. As Makoto grew so anxious he was about to cry, they rushed to comfort him, wiping his tears and turning to me with a half-coaxing, half-threatening tone. "The woman's already caught! What's the point of making a scene? Do you think it'll be something to be proud of if this gets out? George, just let it go, all right?" I used to think that my parents favored Makoto simply because they didn't see his true colors, so I tore off Makoto's mask right in front of them. Yet when their own son had nearly been ruined, they still chose to protect the very one who started it all. Why? A tearing pain split through my mind. I stared at them, my eyes filled with countless invisible blades, cutting away the last sliver of attachment I had to the Wang family. A slender hand draped over my shoulder and Willow's voice sounded by my ear. "George, as long as you're okay, I'll handle the police and everything else. I promise you'll never be in danger again, all right?" She was afraid, too, that if we pressed charges, Makoto would be implicated. The pain in my chest intensified. As I turned and was about to push Willow away, someone slammed hard into my lower back. I crashed to the ground, the searing pain in my spine sharp but not as piercing as the words Alicia screamed while crying. "Bad Daddy, it's you. You bullied Uncle and made him cry. Beat him, beat the bad daddy." Alicia, despite Willow pulling her back, kept struggling, kicking at me with her little legs. At that moment, the world slowed down around me. All I could see was Alicia and Willow. All I could hear was that shrill cry, "Beat him, beat the bad daddy!" Suddenly tears slipped from the corner of my eyes. Something inside me swelled unbearably fast. My heart could no longer keep up, and the suffocating feeling grew stronger and stronger. A few seconds later, I could no longer hold on. Darkness swallowed my vision and I passed out. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room. The warm breath I exhaled misted up the oxygen mask, forming a thin layer of white fog. My body felt unbearably heavy, as if filled with lead. Even moving a fingertip was a struggle. A nurse, noticing I was awake, immediately walked over. "Mr. Wang, you're finally awake. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Mrs. Chan came by several times. If you hadn't woken up, the entire hospital staff would have been ready to jump off the roof." Her words made me laugh weakly. I asked in a frail voice. "Besides Mrs. Chan, did anyone else visit?" The nurse shook her head. "No, I've been here the whole time. I didn't see anyone else. It was your housekeeper who called the ambulance. Luckily, the internal bleeding was cleared in time, or else you would have spent the rest of your life as a vegetable." I frowned. I remembered collapsing at home with the whole family present. Yet after I fainted for so long, not a single family member came to the hospital. A chill rose in my chest. I remembered the doctor's orders not to get agitated, so I silently took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I lay in the hospital bed until nightfall. During that time, Mrs. Chan called upon hearing that I had woken up. After expressing a few words of concern, her tone shifted to one of deep anger when she mentioned Willow. "The girl from the Liu family, she's absolutely outrageous. You nearly lost your life, and she's still hovering around that Makoto. I'm going to teach the Liu family a lesson and give you justice." At first, I didn't know what she was talking about. I was still puzzled when Makoto suddenly sent me a video. In the video, he was also in a hospital room wearing a patient gown. His damp bangs clung to his pale forehead, making him look pitifully weak. By his bedside, my mother and father sat with red, swollen eyes from crying. A slender woman's hand patiently spoon-fed Makoto some soup. On her left hand, the wedding ring she wore was identical to mine. Who else could it be but Willow? After sipping the soup, another small hand reached out, offering a peeled orange, perfectly cleaned without a trace of white pith, to his mouth. A child's voice softly murmured, "Uncle, please get better soon. I don't want you to be sick." So, the reason the whole family hadn't shown up was because Makoto had been hospitalized too, and they had all been with him. I closed my eyes and turned off the video. Family affection had already become a luxury I could no longer afford. All I wanted now was a bit of peace. Yet even such a simple wish couldn't be granted. Shortly after sending the video, Makoto and the others came pushing his wheelchair into my hospital room. "George!" Willow's voice was hoarse, looking at me as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. There were faint, dark circles under her eyes. In just 3 days, she had become noticeably thinner, her face visibly worn and exhausted. Seeing the whole family assembled like this, a bad feeling rose in my chest. Before I could speak, Makoto suddenly knelt beside my bed, crying. "Brother, I've been diagnosed with a terminal illness. I don't have much time left." As soon as he finished, my father covered his face and began to sob uncontrollably. My mother sighed heavily, patted my father's shoulder, and looked at me with reddened eyes. "We came here today to ask a favor," she said tearfully. "We want to borrow Willow for a little while to take a set of memorial photos with Makoto before he passes." Memorial photos. The absurdity of the request made me sit there silently for a long moment, making sure I hadn't misheard. Looking at the family's expressions, faces full of certainty that I would agree, I let out a cold laugh and said with biting sarcasm, "And what if I say no?" "George, how can you be so heartless? Your brother is dying." My father rushed at me, shouting with bloodshot eyes, the shock and disgust in his expression barely contained. Through his furious gaze, I saw my own colorless, blood-drained reflection. I spoke calmly. "You can spoil him all you want. That's none of my business. But as long as Willow and I are still legally married, I will never agree to this ridiculous request. Unless—" I looked up at Willow, my gaze icy. "Unless we get divorced." And Willow froze for a few seconds. Maybe it was my imagination, but it seemed as if her pupils trembled slightly, a flash of anger briefly crossing her eyes. After a moment, her red lips parted and her voice came out cold and clear. "Fine. Let's get a divorce." "George, I'm not just going to take wedding photos with Makoto. This time I'm going to give him a grand wedding." That day in the hospital room, Willow left me with those words before helping Makoto away. In the now empty ward, I was the only one left. I sat there in a daze for a long time, so long that even my tears had dried, before I finally made up my mind. At dawn, A taxi pulled up in front of the luxurious villa. Wearing nothing but a thin hospital gown, I got out of the car, looked up at the house that had once been my and Willow's marital home, and tightened my grip around the lighter in my palm before stepping inside. Traces of a family life were everywhere inside the house. Alicia's favorite doll still lay on the carpet. The graffiti on the wall hadn't been cleaned. Willow's shawl was casually draped over the back of the sofa. Just a few days ago, mother and daughter had been playing house together in the living room. My throat moved slightly as I tore my gaze away and headed upstairs. I went straight to the master bedroom's walk-in closet. Among the rows of expensive suits, I quickly found a cheaply made white blazer, ordinary in craftsmanship. It was the one I had bought during our honeymoon in Las Vegas, the year Willow and I got married. That night had coincided with a mass wedding event in Las Vegas. The entire street was ablaze with lights. I had randomly bought a white blazer from a street vendor and pulled Willow into the crowd to join the festivities. We were both drunk that night, dancing wildly among strangers. After one dance, Willow's hand around my waist refused to let go. Her bright, intoxicated eyes looked up at me with a tenderness deep enough to drown in. She said she thought she had really fallen in love with me. Back then I didn't understand. Now I finally did. It was also that night that Willow conceived Alicia. They say that children born from love are especially beautiful. Alicia as a child had a round little face, pale, soft skin, and bright, lively eyes like grapes, adorable and clever. She truly was a beautiful child. But just like her mother, her eyes and heart were always full of Makoto. I took the white blazer and our wedding photo to the garden. These two things that had once meant so much to me were instantly consumed by flames when I lit the fire. At the end, a gust of wind scattered the ashes. My ties with Willow and Alicia were completely severed. I was about to leave when I suddenly heard noises at the door, followed by bursts of cheerful laughter. "Alicia, your mommy and daddy are getting divorced. How about Uncle becomes your new daddy?" That gentle voice reaching my ears felt like a knife stabbing straight into my chest. The next second, Alicia cried out excitedly, "Okay, Alicia doesn't like Daddy. Alicia loves Uncle. Alicia wants Uncle to be her daddy." Makoto sounded so smug, his voice dripping with sugary coaxing. "Good girl, go take your bath now. After you finish, I'll reward you with a chocolate candy." He spoke in the same tone people use to train a dog. Alicia noticed nothing wrong. Her tiny figure, not even tall enough to reach the doorknob properly, toddled off to the bathroom to run the water herself. Hiding in the guest room, I felt an inexplicable, wrenching pain in my chest. Just as Willow entered after parking her car, a figure rushed into her arms. Makoto hugged her slender waist, his tone full of fawning eagerness. "Willow, I've waited so long for this day." As he spoke, he impatiently began unbuttoning Willow's clothes, his voice low and coaxing. "I've got a surprise prepared. For you tonight." Willow's cheeks flushed slightly, but she pressed his hand down, her voice soft and gentle as she reminded him. "Alicia hasn't gone to bed yet. Don't let the child see." "Alicia's being such a good girl. She just asked to take a bath by herself," Makoto said, his eyes burning. "Why don't we head back to the bedroom?" Makoto wrapped his arms around Willow's neck, and the two of them kissed and tangled their way to the master bedroom. After I heard the master bedroom door slam shut, I waited a few more moments before stepping out of the guest room. My face was so pale it made me look even worse than I had in the hospital. Lifting my gaze toward the second-floor master bedroom, my eyes were filled with nothing but disgust. I was about to leave when suddenly a sharp scream came from the bathroom. "Ah! Alicia!" I rushed into the bathroom, and through the rising steam saw Alicia lying on the floor. I quickly helped her up. But as soon as Alicia saw my face clearly, she pushed me away forcefully. "Who told you to come back? I have a new daddy now. I don't need you anymore." The distance in her eyes pierced deep into my heart, waking me up completely. I let go of Alicia, stood up, and said with chilling calmness, "You're right. Since you have a new daddy now, you no longer need my protection." Before leaving, out of the last shred of fatherly duty, I reminded her, "Eating candy before bed will rot your teeth. Be careful not to get cavities." That was the last thing I ever said to Alicia. Sopping wet, Alicia watched my back as I left, feeling a strange unease. But thinking of her handsome, gentle uncle, she quickly forgot about it. The wedding between the Wang and Liu families was a modest affair. After all, in the eyes of the world, this marriage was far from honorable, yet Makoto still posed elegantly for the wedding photos in his suit and sent them all to me. "Bro, my wedding's about to start. It's a pity you won't be here." "I look pretty handsome in a suit, don't I?" Willow says I'm even more handsome than you were back then. As I received those messages, I was standing at a private airfield, about to board a helicopter. I carried only a small briefcase. Inside were documents that determined the life and death of the Wang family's business empire. Looking at the constant stream of notifications, I chuckled sarcastically. Then I pulled out my SIM card, snapped it in half, and tossed it into a trash can. I instructed the security team from the Chan family's confidential unit. "Please release the news of my death half an hour after takeoff, and make sure Makoto receives my parting gift." The team leader gave a slight bow. "Understood, young master." In the helicopter awaited me at the red-carpeted stairs. I stepped up and took one last look at the sky above City A. It was as blue as it had been the day I was brought back to my parents. But this time, I was leaving it forever. 2 hours later, the plane touched down, and George completely vanished from existence, replaced by David, the newly recovered heir of the Chan family. As for Willow and Makoto, it wouldn't be long before they tasted betrayal and abandonment. The Wang family's business empire would soon be swallowed by the brutal corporate world. I would make sure everyone who had ever hurt me knew just how cold and cruel the rain was when there was no one left to shield them. Willow, linking arms with my mother, slowly walked along the floral path. Little Alicia, dressed as a flower girl, scattered handfuls of petals into the air. Step by step, Willow approached Makoto. In front of her was the man she had loved for 10 years, yet for some reason her heart felt strangely empty. Images of George in his wedding suit kept flashing in her mind. At that moment, the big screen at the wedding suddenly lit up. George's face appeared. "Hello, everyone. I'm Makoto's older brother, George. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the wedding because I'm already dead." The venue erupted into chaos. Willow stood frozen in place, the ring slipping from her fingertip and falling to the ground with a sharp clink. George unfolded a medical report. The words Stage 3 leukemia and 1 month left to live were clearly visible. With a pale, bloodless face, he spoke slowly. "Mom, Dad, I was too petty. Even when Makoto was supposedly terminally ill, I still refused to lend him my wife for wedding photos. But it's fine now. I've given her to him completely. You won't blame me anymore, will you? Congratulations to my ex-wife and my brother. I wish you a long and happy life together." As George finished speaking, 2 streams of blood suddenly poured from his nose. He quickly covered his face and cut off the recording. The screen went dark, leaving the entire hall in a heavy, deathly silence. Willow stood there, full of disbelief. An unspeakable sourness overwhelmed her chest, and the ring slipped once again from her fingers, falling onto the floor. My mother and father were equally stunned, so shocked they couldn't speak for a long time. It wasn't until Alicia walked over and innocently asked, "Grandma, Grandpa, what does cremation mean?" Everyone finally snapped out of it, only to feel a stabbing pain deep in their hearts. How can a sister-in-law marry her husband's brother when her husband isn't even cold in the ground yet? The Wang family has truly gone mad. A respected elder stood up angrily, followed by other guests leaving in disgust. In the blink of an eye, the banquet hall, originally meant to accommodate hundreds, became cold and deserted. Makoto's face twisted, as if he had swallowed a fly. In his heart, he cursed George 1,000 times over. Why couldn't he just die quietly? Why did he have to ruin everything even at death's door? Wang's father, choking with sobs, said, "Why didn't that child tell us he was sick?" Makoto's heart skipped a beat. He quickly suppressed his anger and looked at Wang's father with a face full of aggrieved innocence. "Dad, my brother willingly divorced Willow, but now he's pulling this stunt at the wedding. Isn't it just to get back at me? I don't care if he humiliates me, but What about the Wang family's reputation? Just as he finished speaking, a sharp, cold laugh echoed from the audience. Everyone turned to realize someone had not left yet. A tall woman in a sharply tailored black suit, exuding a powerful, commanding presence, walked slowly toward them. Her phoenix-like eyes swept over Makoto, making his spine stiffen with fear. Willow frowned, her voice indifferent. "Who are you?" "You're not on the guest list." The woman, radiating the effortless poise and disdain of someone born to power, replied in a frosty voice. "You're not worthy of knowing my name." "You—" Willow lunged forward, trying to grab the woman's arm. Before she could touch her, several bodyguards immediately pinned her to the ground. The sudden confrontation made Makoto stumble back a step, pale as a sheet. Who are you?" The woman curled her lips in a mocking smile, raising her left hand slightly. A silver family ring on her index finger gleamed under the light. When the Wangs and Willow saw the ring, their faces turned from anger to shock. That was the family crest of the top-tier conglomerate, the Shu family. Seeing their reactions, the woman sneered slightly, motioning the bodyguards to release Willow. She then tossed a thick stack of documents in Willow's face, her icy gaze sweeping over everyone present. "Open your eyes and see clearly. These are all the grievances George endured over the years. Everyone who bullied him, every last one, won't escape." With that, the woman turned away coldly, leading the bodyguards as they left, leaving behind only a hall full of stunned, speechless people. Wang's father bent down and picked up the documents scattered on the ground. He vaguely caught sight of the words organ transplant, before Makoto suddenly snatched them from his hands. His face was bloodless, and he forced a smile in an attempt to hide his panic. "Dad, George's body is on the way to the crematorium. If we hurry, maybe we can still see him one last time." His hands holding the documents were trembling slightly. A flash of suspicion crossed Wang's father's eyes. But thinking of George being alone at the crematorium made his heart ache sharply. "You're right. We have to go to the crematorium now. We can't let George leave this world so lonely." The entire family immediately set out for the crematorium. The crematorium was located in a remote mountainous area on the outskirts. When they arrived, thick black smoke was already billowing from the chimney. Wang's mother and father froze in place, their voices choked with emotion. "George, how could he?" Willow grabbed a passing staff member by the collar, her eyes bloodshot. "Where is George's body?" "Did you already burn it?" The staff member was startled by her agitation and stammered as he handed over the death records. "We did receive a male body named George today. He had a surgical scar on the left side of his abdomen. He had undergone a liver resection surgery." "I don't know if he's the person you're talking about." Wang's mother snatched the file away. The moment she saw George's photo attached, her eyes turned red with tears. "It's George." She and Wang's father leaned in and scanned the details, quickly spotting the surgery records from 5 years ago. George had indeed undergone a liver resection. Back then, Wang's mother had urgently needed a liver transplant. But after George's surgery, he had rushed abroad for business negotiations, got caught in a regional conflict, and only returned safely after 3 months. He had never mentioned the surgery to avoid making his parents worry. However, what Makoto had told their parents was that George, terrified of the surgery, had refused to donate his liver and had run off abroad to hide. Both parents turned their shocked gazes toward Makoto. "Makoto, didn't you say it was you who donated your liver to save your mother? That George ran away because he didn't want to help? Have you been lying to us all this time?" Makoto was momentarily speechless, then forced himself to argue. "I didn't lie. Bro really did go abroad back then. But the medical records were black and white proof. George had undergone a liver resection. Who else could have saved their mother?" Rage boiled up in Wang's father's chest. He stared at the boy he had loved and cherished for so many years, overwhelmed by an unbearable pain. You lying little bastard." Since Makoto was young and sickly, Wang's father had given him almost all his attention. Even after finding George, he had tried to treat both sons equally, perhaps even favoring Makoto a bit more. Never had he imagined that Makoto not only stole George's credit, but also drove a wedge between George and the family. making Wang's mother believe George was a cold-hearted ingrate. That misunderstanding had led to their relationship growing colder and colder over the years. Thinking that his biological son had died of a terminal illness, lonely and abandoned, felt like someone had ripped a chunk out of Wang's father's heart. Panic flashed across Makoto's face. He knelt down, begging desperately, "Dad, I didn't mean to deceive you. You raised me for so many years. If I could have saved Mom, I would have done it without hesitation. But I couldn't. Mom, Dad, George died because of his own illness. It had nothing to do with me. We can still be a happy family like before, right? I'm still your good son, okay?" Hearing such shameless words, Wang's father's eyes burned with fury. He raised his hand and slapped Makoto hard across the face. "Get out. Get out of the Wang family. From now on, we have no son like you." A red, swollen handprint immediately appeared on Makoto's face. He stared at Wang's father in disbelief, his brows furrowing tightly. "You hit me? You're hitting me over something that happened so long ago?" Wang's father, trembling with rage, charged forward to strike him again. "You made George suffer so much. Why the hell shouldn't I hit you?" Willow hesitated for a moment, but still stepped forward to block Wang's father. "Makoto," she glanced at Makoto. With his red, swollen face and disheveled appearance, he looked utterly pathetic. But to Willow he now seemed completely fake. His tears were fake. His kindness was fake. Even his so-called love for her might have been fake. Only because of their long-standing childhood bond did she step in to protect him. Wang's father's eyes burned with anger and grief. "Willow, are you really still trying to defend the man who caused George's death?" Willow froze. Thinking of my death, her gaze toward Makoto grew colder and darker. Silently she stepped aside. Wang's father glared at Makoto, shouting, "I was blind! I welcomed a wolf into my home. I only saw your true face after George died. I'll never forgive you! Hand over all the properties and shares under your name." Hearing this, Makoto wiped his tears and slowly stood up. He sneered with contempt, "Uncle, that's not going to happen." No one had expected Makoto to be this shameless. My father and he had a huge argument, tearing all pretense apart. The scene was as ugly as it could get. However, the company's shares and official seals were all in Makoto's hands. Even after several lawsuits, the Wang family lost every case. Wang's mother was so infuriated that she had a heart attack and was admitted to the ICU. After a frantic round of emergency treatment, she finally regained consciousness. When she woke up, her speech was slurred, but she kept calling George's name. Beside her, Wang's father's eyes were red with tears. "It's all my fault. I couldn't see through him. Treated a thankless wolf like a treasure." Makoto had frozen all their accounts and used Wang's mother's life to threaten my father, forcing him to sell off his real estate, jewelry, and luxury cars to Makoto at dirt-cheap prices. "Nobody in City A is willing to lend you a penny now. Even if you wanted to go through formal auction procedures, it would take at least 6 months. You really think your wife's health will last that long? Are you willing to just sit back and watch her die in agony?" My father stared at Makoto's cold, ruthless face, feeling the blood in his veins turn to ice. Clutching his chest, he said with a trembling voice, "You! How could your heart be so vicious?" Makoto smiled faintly. "How can you blame me for being ruthless? You're the ones who were stupid. When I was still living under your roof, I had to flatter you, terrified you'd kick me out if I slipped up even once. Now that George is dead, why should I show you any respect?" He tossed the asset transfer contracts at my father's feet, his voice impatient. "My time is precious. Think carefully before you come begging." My father stared in disbelief at the boy he had once cherished so dearly, almost fainting from the blow. Without a second glance, Makoto turned and left. A while later, several security guards came and physically removed Wang's father from the company building. Wang's father never imagined that one day he would be thrown out of his own company. He wandered aimlessly toward the street, dazed. Just as a car was about to hit him, someone yanked him back. My father looked up at the young man who had saved him. The young man showed his press badge. "Are you Mr. Wang?" "I'm Maria, a journalist for the Star's Returning Home reunion program. We heard you adopted the current CEO Makoto about 15 years ago. Would you be willing to talk to us? Upon hearing this, my father's eyes lit up as if he had found a lifeline in a sea of despair. He nodded eagerly. Of course, of course. Ask me anything. You want to know it, I'll tell you. That night, Makoto returned home and casually tossed his suit jacket aside. Willow still hadn't come back. Ever since the wedding, she had been finding excuses not to return home, either social engagements or business trips. Makoto, remembering how they had secretly gotten together behind George's back, was filled with suspicion. But he knew he was in no position to complain, so he buried his frustration deep inside. Just as he was stewing, Alicia ran over. "Daddy, can you tell me a story tonight?" Alicia's eyes and facial features looked so much like George's that Makoto froze for a moment, his face darkening. "A story." He grabbed the storybook, tore it into shreds with a few rough motions, and flung the pieces at Alicia's head. "You're not even my daughter. Why should I tell you a story? Crying again? I hate kids who cry. Shut up, do you hear me?" Alicia's eyes widened in shock. The fierce, hostile man before her was nothing like the gentle uncle she remembered. Tears streamed down her face as she trembled uncontrollably. Makoto grabbed her arm and twisted it hard. "Stop crying." "Wah!" "I want Daddy. I don't want Uncle. I want Daddy." Alicia sobbed uncontrollably, her wails splitting the air. Makoto's head throbbed with rage. Finally, losing all patience, he grabbed her by the collar and tossed her into the bathroom. "You like crying so much? Cry all you want in there." Click, the door locked behind her. In the pitch-black bathroom, Alicia felt like monsters were lurking around every corner, ready to pounce. She screamed and cried until her voice went hoarse, but no one came to save her. Eventually, exhausted, she curled up in a corner and whimpered softly, "I want Daddy. I don't want Uncle." Meanwhile, at a private club, Willow checked her phone. It was 4 a.m. Dawn was only an hour away. The screen was full of missed calls and messages from Makoto urging her to come home. Willow frowned and coldly switched off her phone. Her chest felt tight, as if something heavy were lodged inside. She sighed deeply. Since George's death and Makoto's move into her home, the two of them had been constantly fighting. When she was with George, they would talk endlessly about finance, music, international affairs. There was always something to share, but Makoto only cared about luxury cars, designer watches, status and power. He had a constant need for control, terrified Willow didn't have him in her heart. Conversations between them would break down within a few sentences. Arguments became more and more frequent. She would rather stay out all night than go home. The bitter fruit of betraying George had to be swallowed whole, no one else to blame. Images of George's smile, his voice, his warmth filled her mind. But he would never come back. Staggering slightly, Willow walked out of the lounge. At the end of the hallway, a familiar figure flashed past. Startled, she hurried after it. When she saw the man's sharply defined profile, her blood seemed to boil. George. The man entered a private room, guarded by 2 bodyguards. Willow rushed forward, but was immediately blocked. "Miss, this is our young master's private room. No one is allowed in without his permission." Willow noticed the badge on the bodyguard's chest. It bore the emblem of the Chan family. She suddenly remembered hearing a few days ago that Mrs. Chan had found her long-lost son. A shock ran through her. Could this man be the Chan family's heir, David? But how could 2 people look so alike? Willow quickly explained, "My name is Willow. I'm the CEO of Lu Capital. Please pass a message to young Master Chan. I'm only here to offer a toast." The bodyguard went inside briefly. When he returned, his face looked even more unpleasant. "Young Master Chan said he's never heard of Lu Capital and doesn't know you. He also said get lost." His words were exceedingly blunt. Willow frowned, just about to force her way in when her phone suddenly rang. It was the housekeeper, sounding panicked. "Miss Liu, the young miss has run away from home with the master's memorial photo." Willow's heart dropped. Without wasting another second, she raced back home. Alicia was only 5 years old. Although mischievous at times, she was timid by nature. So timid, she even needed someone to accompany her to the bathroom at night. Why would she run away without a reason? When Willow arrived home, her voice was low and stern. Did someone bully her? The servants hesitated, afraid to speak. Willow's tone hardened. "Speak, I promise no one will take it out on you." Finally, a maid stammered out, "It was—" "Mr. Wang, he locked Miss Alicia in the bathroom all night. When I found her in the morning, she was so scared she collapsed. I rushed to get the doctor, but by the time I returned, both Alicia and the master's memorial photo were gone." Hearing that Makoto had locked Alicia in a dark bathroom for an entire night, a surge of rage rushed through Willow. Her voice turned hoarse. "Where is Makoto now?" "Mr. Wang just left. He said he has an important meeting this morning and couldn't miss it." "Makoto!" Willow roared and stormed out, heading straight for Wang Corporation. On the way, she contacted her best friend to help search for Alicia and messaged Wang's parents, asking if Alicia had gone to the old family home. When she learned Alicia wasn't there either, Willow's fury only grew. She barged into Makoto's office, only to see him passionately kissing a young female subordinate. Her anger exploded. "Makoto, do you even have a shred of conscience left?" Makoto jumped in fright, hastily fixing his clothes. "Willow, what are you doing here?" Willow closed her eyes briefly, forcibly suppressing her anger. Her cold gaze swept toward the woman. "Get out." The female subordinate, flustered and terrified, fled the office. Now only Makoto and Willow were left in the room, the air thick with suffocating coldness. Willow advanced step by step, the icy look in her eyes sharp enough to cut holes through Makoto. A cold sweat broke out on Makoto's back. His voice trembled as he tried to explain. "Wife, it's not what it looks like. I was just playing around." "Or was it for work?" Willow sneered. The next second, she grabbed Makoto by the collar, nearly slamming him against the wall. "I must have been blind. I gave up George for you. If you want to throw yourself at anyone who crosses your path, I couldn't care less. But you dared to mistreat Alicia while I was gone? You scared her into running away. I swear I'll make you pay for that." Makoto frantically shook his head. "I didn't abuse Alicia. I just meant to lock her up for a little while. I didn't mean to forget her." "Forget her?" Willow's eyes burned red, her teeth clenched so tightly it hurt. "She's 5 years old. What kind of monstrous crime could she have possibly committed to deserve being locked up all night?" She tightened her grip on Makoto's collar. Makoto's face turned red from lack of air, coughing and clawing at her hands. Through labored breaths, he croaked, "She cried too much. Bastard!" Hearing such a ridiculous excuse, Willow's fury boiled over. She slapped him, hard. The slap echoed through the office, leaving an angry blood-red mark across Makoto's face. He stared at Willow, utterly stunned. "You hit me? Don't forget I control Wang Corporation now. If you want to fight me, I won't hesitate to drag the Liu family down with me." From the moment Willow stormed into the office and saw him in another woman's arms, Makoto had known she would lose control. He just hadn't expected her to actually lay hands on him. Makoto straightened up, laughing bitterly, resigned. "Willow, I'm no longer the pushover you once knew. You'll pay for putting your hands on me." Willow raised her cold eyes, the ruthless look in them, something she had never shown Makoto before, making him feel a sudden creeping sense of fear. "Then go ahead," she said coldly. "Try me." Willow, anxious to find Alicia, shoved Makoto away and stormed out without looking back. Makoto rubbed his sore cheek, his teeth clenched tightly, hatred seething in his eyes. Willow's words echoed mercilessly in his ears. "I must have been blind to give up George for you. She regretted it?" "She actually regretted it because of a dead man." Makoto's hands curled into fists so tight that his nails dug deep into his flesh. He gritted his teeth and muttered, "Willow, just you wait." While he was consumed with thoughts of revenge, his assistant Oscar walked in and reminded him that he had a TV interview scheduled that afternoon. Makoto forced himself to calm down and went downstairs. A van from the TV station was already parked at the curb. Seeing it was the station's car, he got in without suspicion. When they arrived at the studio, the female host asked him a few standard questions at first. But then her tone abruptly shifted. "Mr. Wang, we've learned that you were adopted by the Wang family. Over the past decade, have you ever thought about meeting your biological parents?" The hall fell into a dead silence. Makoto's heart skipped a beat, an ominous feeling washing over him. And then, his worst fear came true. The curtain slowly lifted. A shabby-looking couple with dark skin and worn-out clothes stepped onto the stage. The moment they saw Makoto, they rushed forward, putting on a heart-wrenching show of reunion. The woman clutched him tightly, sobbing so fiercely it seemed she would tear her heart out. Yet not a single tear actually fell from her eyes. "Makoto, I'm so sorry. Your father and I were too young. We couldn't afford to raise you back then." The woman's slurred, wailing cries echoed throughout the studio. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every twitch of Makoto's frozen expression. Makoto sat rigid in his seat, blood turning cold, staring in shock at the audience. In the front row, Wang's father gave him a cold, twisted smile. Makoto's gaze immediately hardened into icy fury. In a flash, he understood everything. It was Wang's father who had found his biological parents, colluded with the journalists, and set this whole trap, to expose his true identity as an abandoned child to the entire world. From the moment he stepped into the studio, his life was already over. Meanwhile, 3 months ago, I had successfully completed my fake death plan. Now I had been reborn as the Chan family's son, David Chan. Mrs. Chan, whose health was frail, now lived peacefully in Shaotan Mountain. All family affairs were managed by me. "Young Master Chan, tonight is the Eurasia Park Investment Gala." "As a major investor, it would be best if you made an appearance," said Oscar, my assistant, nervously standing in front of me. Facing me, dressed sharply in a tailored suit and focused on reviewing contracts, Oscar felt an inexplicable pressure. This gala would also be attended by Miss Xu, the heiress of another major conglomerate. If I didn't show up, it would come across as arrogance, something that could easily offend important allies. Without lifting my head, I responded indifferently, "Mm-hmm." Oscar's eyes lit up. "Young Master Chan, does that mean you agree to attend?" I looked up slightly, raising an eyebrow. "Is there a problem?" "No problem. No problem at all. I'll prepare your suit and styling team right away. You're guaranteed to be the most dazzling person there." Hearing that, I shook my head helplessly. I was about to tell him to keep things low profile and avoid making a scene, but before I could speak, he had already dashed off in a frenzy. Chuckling to myself, I lowered my head to continue reviewing the documents when a video call request popped up. Initially, I didn't intend to answer, but my finger accidentally brushed the screen and the call connected. A vibrant, stunning face filled the screen, delicate features radiating youthful charm. Her previously frowning brows instantly relaxed upon seeing me pick up. Anna cleared her throat and with a sweet voice asked, "David, why are you ignoring me?" Anna was 3 years older than me. We had met at a bar, the night I faked my death. I was in a terrible mood that night and had drunk a little too much. In the dim lighting, she had approached first. Long, seductive curls framed her face. Dazzling earrings dangled from her ears. Her striking beauty hit like a force of nature. For the first time in a long while, my heart had raced. Caught up in the drunken haze and the ambiguous atmosphere, we spent a wild, reckless night together. The next morning, I left a bank card with 200,000 yuan on her pillow as a tip for the previous night. 200,000? Looks like you were very satisfied last night, huh? At the time, I thought she was just a bar waitress. I didn't want to get tangled up, so I also wrote her a 1,000,000 yuan check as hush money. I never expected, 3 days later at a Chan family banquet, she would appear again, this time as Miss Xu, heiress of the Zhu family. And to make matters worse, the Chan and Xu families were rivals in the business world. Polite on the surface, hostile underneath. I regretted it deeply and tried to avoid her for several days. Finally, Anna lost her patience and threatened to drag her grandmother to the Chan family estate to propose marriage. I couldn't let that happen. "If you don't want a scene," Anna said shamelessly, her beautiful face full of mischief, "then give me a proper status. When we're together in private, you have to call me your girlfriend, or even your wife." I had no choice but to agree, but she pushed even further. "Half an hour of video calls every day. 2 days of dating every weekend. And if you go on a business trip, I'll fly to wherever you are." "What's so clingy about that? You think you can just use me and disappear afterward?" "Fine, I'll go see Madame Chan tomorrow and demand justice." Because of her threats, I didn't even dare to answer her calls lately. Now Anna leaned in close to the camera, her slender, fox-like eyes full of temptation. Tonight, your place or mine. Pick one. I immediately caught the hidden meaning in her words. My body tensed slightly, though my face remained calm. Anna, don't you think it's a bit much? I get that you're young and energetic, but maybe we should show a little restraint. Anna narrowed her eyes at me, smiling slowly. I wasn't afraid of her being direct. It was when she got sneaky that I felt a chill of dread. Sure enough, the next second she stood up, wearing only a silk nightgown. The graceful line of her neck and shoulders revealed faint traces of a love bite, making my face burn instantly. I'm going to visit Madame Chan right now, she said sweetly, and tell her exactly how you bullied me last night. I was speechless. In the end, I could only give in to her unreasonable demands. After the banquet tonight, I would go home with Anna. Tonight's Eurasia Park Investment Gala was a grand event, drawing celebrities and media attention. The flashes of cameras were endless as stars and socialites made their entrances. But the moment the Shu family's Bentley pulled up, the reporters swarmed outside like bees. Anna stepped out in an elegant black evening gown, her hair meticulously styled into a graceful updo. Her full forehead and perfectly proportioned features made her look noble and mysterious. Everywhere she passed, there were respectful greetings. Miss Shu! Miss Shu! When I arrived at the venue, Anna hadn't gone far yet. We kept a few meters of distance between us, walking separately. Suddenly one of the reporters shouted, "The Chan family's heir is here!" Anna's previously distant, indifferent expression brightened slightly at the mention of my name. She paused, stopping in front of a fan who had stretched out a pen. Smiling faintly, she gracefully took the pen and signed her name with a grand flourish. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught her smirking playfully. I knew instantly she was doing it on purpose. I quickened my pace, trying to pass her quickly. Unexpectedly, my dress shoes slipped slightly on the carpet, and my body pitched forward. The next second, a hand caught my arm just in time. Anna lowered her gaze, a glint of amusement flickering in her eyes. "Mr. Chan can't even walk properly. Been working too hard lately." I glared at her. We locked eyes for just a few seconds, but the surrounding journalists frantically snapped away at their cameras. I didn't think much of the incident at first, until midway through the banquet, Anna sent me a screenshot of a trending Weibo post. Miss Zhu catches the falling Mr. Chan, a perfect match for a billionaire sibling romance. Seeing that, my vision went black. If Madame Chan saw this, she might faint from sheer anger. I quickly arranged for the hot search to be taken down and stepped out onto the balcony, preparing to call the old lady to gauge her mood. Not far away, I caught sight of a few adults surrounding a child, pushing and shoving him roughly while hurling vicious insults. "You little bastard, stealing right from Grandpa's hands, huh? Today we'll teach you a lesson your deadbeat parents should have." Several men raised their legs, about to kick the child. "Stop!" I barked sharply, frowning as I strode over. The child being beaten was filthy and scrawny, clutching a greasy chicken drumstick tightly in her hands. I turned my displeased gaze toward the adults. "It's just a chicken leg. Is that really a reason to beat up a kid?" Their faces immediately changed. The head chef, recognizing me as the young master of the Chan family, quickly stepped forward to explain. "Mr. Chan, if it were just a few chicken legs, of course we wouldn't resort to this. But this little thief keeps coming back to steal. Last time at a banquet, she took a whole crate of special-grade sea cucumbers, worth tens of thousands." I turned to look at the little girl. She immediately buried her face in her arms. Guessing she probably had no family to care for her, I sighed and ordered, "Bring her some food. As for the sea cucumber incident, have my assistant settle it later." Soon the kitchen staff brought over plates of food. The little girl wolfed it down desperately. I couldn't bear to watch and gently patted her back. "Slow down. There's plenty more." Gradually she lowered her guard around me. It was only then I learned that her parents had passed away, and her grandmother, her last relative, had died just days ago. She had stolen the sea cucumbers to pay for her grandmother's hospital bills. Something inside me softened. I pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the food from the corner of her mouth. Startled, the little girl recoiled quickly. "No, don't. I'm dirty. I'll ruin your nice things." Seeing the fear in her eyes, I made a decision. I decided to adopt her. It wasn't until later, while helping her bathe, that I discovered she was actually a boy. My name's Lucas, he said, his voice soft. Grandma told me to pretend to be a girl. That way no one would bully me. My heart twisted painfully. I reached out and hugged Lucas tightly. Lucas was far more sensible than most children. He dressed himself, folded his bedding, sat quietly doing homework at night, and ate only a little, trying his best to show he was easy to care for. To bond with him, I took him to an amusement park over the weekend. We rode the carousel together. Lucas wore a little blue prince outfit with Mickey Mouse ears perched on his head, and for the first time, he smiled brightly into my camera. It was also the first time he ever said he wanted something, a simple ice cream cone. Good boy, since this is your first time asking for something, you deserve another reward. I held Lucas's hand and led him toward the dessert shop inside the park. Not far away, Alicia watched the scene unfold. She frowned deeply, her big round eyes filling with tears, but remembering how Daddy hated children who cried, she pressed her lips together tightly and forced herself to hold it in. Daddy! She suddenly shouted and ran toward me. Lucas looked up in surprise, only to be shoved aside as Alicia threw herself into my arms, hugging my leg tightly. I froze for a second, startled. Ouch! Lucas tumbled onto the ground, letting out a small cry of pain. He quickly scrambled up. Even though his beloved prince outfit was now dirty, he didn't cry. He twisted his little hands together nervously, staring at Alicia. Alicia glared at him fiercely and snapped, "This is my daddy, you little thief!" Hearing the word thief, Lucas's lips quivered. He couldn't hold back anymore and was about to cry. My heart ached. I pushed Alicia aside and walked over to scoop Lucas into my arms, speaking to him softly. "Don't cry, Lucas. I'm your daddy, only yours." At that moment, Alicia broke down. She stared at me in disbelief as I comforted Lucas, biting her lips hard as tears poured down her cheeks like strings of little pearls. But my attention was fully on Lucas. I didn't even spare Alicia a glance. Left with no choice, Alicia tiptoed over to me, tilting her head carefully, her little face full of grievance and cautious hope. "Daddy, I'm crying too." "Won't you look at me? Don't you want me anymore?" I picked up Lucas and looked at Alicia expressionlessly. "I don't know you. I only have a son. His name is Lucas." "Little girl, you should hurry back to your family." Alicia's mouth trembled. She grabbed the hem of my clothes and started throwing a tantrum. "You are my daddy. I'm not leaving. Uncle is a big bad guy. He locked me in a dark room and wouldn't even let me eat. He's a big meanie. War." I paused, stunned. Only then did I notice that Alicia's clothes were torn and there were bruises on her legs. It was clear she really had run away from home. But in my previous life, hadn't Makoto spoiled her terribly? Could fate have changed? Even though I no longer regarded Alicia as my daughter, I still called the police and had them notify Willow. 10 minutes later, Willow rushed over in a panic. The moment Alicia spotted her, she shouted joyfully, "Mommy!" Willow swept her into her arms, holding her tightly as Alicia sobbed brokenly in her chest. "Mommy, let's bring Daddy back home, okay? Uncle is so bad." Her daughter's cries felt like knives stabbing straight into Willow's heart. Holding back her own grief, Willow gently whispered, "Alicia, Daddy is already gone." "You're lying," Alicia screamed. "I just saw Daddy. He's mad at me. He was playing with another little boy, and no matter how hard I cried, he wouldn't look at me." Willow's heart pounded violently. She quickly knelt down and asked Alicia, "Alicia, you really saw Daddy?" Alicia nodded vigorously. "Cross my heart." Only liars are puppies. Willow's heart raced uncontrollably. If Alicia said she saw George, then that night at the club. It wasn't just a hallucination or mistaken identity. But what did Alicia mean by saying George had a new child? Willow didn't have time to think it through. She grabbed Alicia and headed straight for the security room. Sure enough, on the footage, she saw the man who looked exactly like George. Without hesitation, she informed George's parents of the news. The next day, I went to the office as usual. The moment I stepped inside, someone pulled me into a hug. Anna's arms tightened around me, carrying the soft scent of flowers. Her body heat seeped through the thin layers of fabric, and her breath brushed against my ear. "Why did you stand me up the other night?" She bit my earlobe lightly, playfully not painfully, making my ears burn red. "I had something to deal with." My voice, under Anna's teasing fingers, suddenly dropped to a lower, hoarser register, deep enough to make her shiver slightly. Anna chuckled softly and whispered against my ear, "What could possibly be more important than a date with me? I adopted a kid." When I said that, Anna almost thought she had heard wrong. She felt a mix of confusion and amusement. Still hugging me, she teased seductively, "If you like kids that much, you should have told me earlier. We can make one ourselves." I elbowed her lightly. As she yelped in mock pain, I walked over to the desk, my tone returning to its usual coolness. "Didn't we agree? We don't interfere in each other's private lives." Anna snorted lightly. "Not interfering? Right. After just a few days apart, you come back with a kid? What's next? Are you going to pop up with a wife and toss me aside?" Her words were practically dripping with jealousy. I raised an eyebrow. "Who knows? Could happen." I raised an eyebrow. "That's hard to say." My words caught Anna off guard for quite a while. But after a moment she reconsidered. David had such high standards that no ordinary gold diggers would ever catch his eye. Besides, in this whole circle, who could be better than herself at making him happy? Anna, the eldest daughter of the Shu family, started calculating in her mind, her scheming more active than even those mistresses who dreamt of climbing the social ladder. The office door was pushed open. Assistant Oscar entered with a bright smile, but the moment he saw Anna, his expression instantly darkened. He stared at her in shock for a few seconds before asking uncertainly, "Miss Shu, what are you doing here?" I glanced at Anna, signaling her with my eyes not to say anything wrong. After all, the two of us were still publicly known as enemies. Anna instantly understood. She smoothed her expression into cool, distant composure and answered indifferently, "Business negotiations." "Business negotiations?" Oscar sounded skeptical. "Are you planning to join young Master Chan in acquiring the Wang Corporation?" At the mention of Wang Corporation, David narrowed his eyes and asked Oscar, "What happened to Wang?" Realizing his young master didn't know yet, Oscar stepped closer and lowered his voice. "The former president of the Wang Corporation, Makoto, has been sent to prison." "Prison?" David frowned at Oscar. "According to the memories from my previous life, Makoto wasn't supposed to fall for another 6 months." "Why so soon?" Oscar pulled up a trending episode of a recent missing persons reality show and handed me the phone. "It's because of this program." I skipped ahead and watched a bit. On the show, Makoto's biological parents appeared, clung to him on stage, and sobbed uncontrollably. His face went from green to white, and finally he shoved them away. "Biological parents? I don't even know you!" He glared at the host, voice shaking with rage. "Where did you find these random nobodies and claim they're my parents?" "I'll see you in court." The host, Maria, calmly pushed up her glasses. "Mr. Wang, before inviting you, we located your adoptive father, Mr. Wang, and obtained a DNA sample. After comparison, we can confirm you are indeed this couple's child. If you have doubts, request another test. We'll gladly meet you in court." At that moment, old Wang walked onto the stage, which instantly boosted the credibility of the host's words. I can confirm everything she said. Makoto lost control and demanded they shut off the cameras. His arrogance only irritated everyone. Not only did the cameramen refuse, they zoomed in on his twisted, furious face. The raw footage later aired in full. That same day, the scandal rocketed to the top of the trending list. Clips of his outbursts turned into memes and GIFs that spread like wildfire. Overnight, he became a joke. He tried to fight back online, threatening to sue anyone using his memes. Instead of scaring people, it stirred up even more backlash. To make an example, he sued a few. Several netizens lost, and each had to pay him 20,000 yuan in emotional damages. That only enraged the public further. Soon, all his darkest deeds came to light. During his time abroad, he toyed with people's feelings, faked academic credentials, embezzled his adoptive parents' assets, and even refused to help when they needed him most. Shortly after his adoptive brother died, he married his sister-in-law. These scandals obliterated his reputation. Some even mailed razor blades and funeral wreaths, demanding he return the estate to Mr. Wang. In the end, Makoto lost the lawsuit and vanished from public view. I wasn't surprised by the outcome. The only thing I regretted was the fate of Wang Corporation itself. Anna glanced down at a message from Maria Ting on her phone. "Miss Xu? The task you assigned is done." Anna's lips lifted slightly, her expression unchanged as she typed back, "All right. Come pick up my Lamborghini anytime." I had no idea what she'd been pulling behind the scenes. Hearing that Wang Corporation was entering bankruptcy liquidation piqued my interest. "Go negotiate with Wang," I instructed. "Tell them we'll acquire at market value." "Understood, young Master Chan." On his way out, the assistant shot Anna a nosy look. I leaned back and rubbed my temples. Only when a light floral scent drifted closer did I remember Anna was still there. I lifted my head as she rose on tiptoe and brushed a kiss against my forehead. "You're really going to acquire Wang Corporation?" she asked, one hand propped elegantly on the desk, the question loaded with meaning. I looked up at her. "Do you want to compete with me?" We each had powerful interests behind us. The Zhu family wouldn't easily let go of a prize like Wang Corporation. I'd always kept emotion and business strictly separate. However compatible we were in bed, I never showed mercy when it came to my interests. Unexpectedly, Anna hesitated for a few seconds, then gave a faint smile. It was supposed to be a sure thing for me, but seeing how much you want it, I'll step back. Her easy concession surprised me. "You, me?" Her slender fingertips skimmed my brow, her gaze oddly gentle. "As compensation, have dinner with me tonight." Before I could answer, her finger pressed to my lips, and she whispered by my ear, "Tonight, you have to feed me until I'm full." Heat rushed to my face. On the day of the Wang Corporation acquisition, I didn't show in person. I sent 2 senior executives and oversaw the entire meeting by video. On screen, Mr. Wang and Willow entered the conference room. Endless lawsuits had hollowed him out. He looked much older and far more worn. After reviewing the contract, Willow suddenly asked, "All the big companies are kicking them while they're down and slashing their bids. Why is your Chan Corporation willing to pay market price?" Our female executive closed the folder and smiled. "That's our president's decision." Mr. Wang glanced at Willow. Thinking of the photos she'd shown him from the Asia-Europe banquet, the Chan family's young master, who looked exactly like me. His eyes went red. Before the Chan team left, he grabbed our executive, ashamed yet hopeful. "Could you tell your president, maybe we could all have a meal sometime?" She didn't answer. She looked at the camera. From my side came a cold male voice. "No need!" Mr. Wang fell silent. Bitterness surged up. He turned away and wiped at his eyes. When the screen went black, I glanced toward the bathroom. Anna sat there with a black silk blindfold over her eyes, satin ribbons binding her wrists and ankles. I narrowed my eyes. "Anna, just how many more tricks do you have I don't know about?" She came over, knelt and kissed the back of my hand. "That's for you to discover." Her hand slid up my thigh, parting them with irresistible confidence. My breath hitched. Heat pooled under her touch, and I frowned slightly, staring at her blindfolded eyes. In that moment, she was overwhelming. It felt like her searing gaze pierced the thin fabric straight to my skin. That night was pure abandon, running until dawn. Morning came with a measured knock. Eyes still closed, I shifted. My whole body ached as if a truck had run me over. I groaned softly and moved Anna's arm off my waist. Outside, the old steward's voice sounded. "Young master, madam is here." The words jolted me fully awake. I shot a look at the still sleeping Anna, heart racing. I was about to wake her when she stretched, pulled me back into her arms and murmured, drowsy and lazy, "Baby, let's sleep a bit more." I clapped a hand over her mouth. Her eyes flew open just as she saw my flushed face. I whispered urgently, "Madam's here. You'd better stay put and don't come out." "If she finds out about us..." Anna arched a brow, caught my wrist and teased in a whisper, "Find out about what?" She knew perfectly well but asked anyway. I ignored her and got dressed. The tenser I was, the more relaxed she looked. Even with Madame Chan's trusted steward right outside, she lay there lazily, head propped on her hand, watching me dress. Before I left, I lobbed a pillow at her. Stepping out, the steward cleared his throat. "Young master, Madame is waiting in the back garden." Got it. I hurried out and found an elegant figure in a cheongsam feeding koi. Nearly 70 now, Madame Chan still carried herself with grace. "Mom," I said quietly, standing at her side. She tossed the feed, then sat beneath the parasol and gestured for me to sit. Sit. She rarely sought me out beyond holidays, and even then there was notice. Coming unannounced like this was unusual. She stayed silent a long time. I had just sipped my tea when she abruptly asked, "How long have you been seeing that shoe girl?" I nearly spat my tea. I hesitated, wondering how much to admit, but before I could speak, she continued, "No need to hide it. Men and women falling in love is normal. I can't stop you. But of all women, you chose that little vixen from the Shu family. Do you know how devious she's been since childhood? You may be brilliant in business, but your judgment of people needs work. A few sweet words from her, and she'll have you wrapped around her finger. David, cut it off while you still can." Just then a clear, lively voice sounded behind us. "Madam, as the saying goes, it's better to topple a temple than break up a match. Why speak ill of the younger generation behind their backs?" I turned and saw Anna, my mind blanked to a single word, screwed. I jumped up, grabbed her, and tried to push her out, face cold, voice low and angry. "Anna, who told you to come out? Get out now." When Anna was in a mood, there was no moving her. Instead of retreating, she laced her fingers with mine and strode straight toward Madame Chan. Madame Chan slowly raised her head. Years of authority made scalps prickle. I went pale. "Imam, I'm sorry. It's not his fault." Anna stood tall, met Madame Chan's gaze, and spoke clearly. "I seduced David. I chose him. I like him. I intend to spend my life with him. If someone must be punished, punish me. It has nothing to do with David." Panic gave way to calm as I heard her words. I looked at her, surprised. She squeezed my hand. Madame Chan's eyes narrowed, voice icy. "You Shu family truly do have a tradition of stealing from the Chans, don't you?" Over 30 years ago, her adopted younger brother had been taken by the Shu matriarch. Now, her adopted son was about to be taken by that woman's granddaughter. She couldn't fathom what was wrong with the Jews. Anna's expression stayed open and fearless, but what she said next jolted me. "Well, who can blame us? The Chan family produces such outstanding people, it's only natural to admire them. Besides," she added, "when I first met David, he wasn't even called Chan. Anna first met me in a secluded alley. She was being hunted, badly hurt, convinced she would die. I appeared then, wearing my school uniform. A clean, delicate-featured boy with a clear, gentle voice. When I took off my jacket to press against her wound, the faint scent of soap from the fabric slipped into her memory and never left. Later, she ran into trouble, and her family sent her abroad. By the time she returned, he had married. She waited for years. Now that he was single again, never mind he was the adopted son of her family's sworn enemies, even if he asked for her life, she would give it." Madame Chan fell silent. I, on the other hand, stood frozen. After a long moment, my eyes stung and I asked, "You were that girl who used to follow me around?" After I was brought back to the Chan family, Makoto often sicked punks on me. Later, a sharp-eyed girl with neat short hair, ever since I saved her once, would wait at the school gate after class and trail behind me all the way home, silent. Anna frowned, incredulous. "What girl?" "I went to a top private school, okay? We finished at 3:30. I made a special trip just to wait for you." I pressed my lips together and said nothing, but joy flickered in my eyes. From the side, Madame Chan spoke. "I don't care what twisted fate binds you. As long as you're from the Shu family, don't even think of getting close to David." Anna's face darkened. Mine did too. Quietly, I let go of her hand. I couldn't be ungrateful or break Madame Chan's heart. "Unless," Madame Chan said, tossing a delicate dagger at Anna's feet, "you repay your grandmother's debt here and now, then I'll consider your marriage." Anna's gaze fell to the jade bracelet on Madame Chan's right wrist. Years ago, Madame Shu had stabbed that hand with a hairpin. To repay the debt, Anna would have to cripple her own right hand. She looked at me. Seeing my eyes rimmed red and my head shaking, her heart twisted. But compared to David, what was one hand? "Fine, let's end the feud today." She raised the dagger and slashed toward her right hand. "Don't." I lunged and covered her hand with mine. A soft click, the blade retracted. Both our hands were unhurt. We stared at Madame Chan, who merely hummed, lifted her teacup, sipped, and said evenly, "You've got some backbone." I exhaled in relief and ventured a cautious smile. "And the feud between the families?" She set down her cup, stood and walked away, her voice drifting back. "Naturally, you'll help me settle it after you marry her." Both of us knew that was her blessing. Anna threw herself into my arms, cradled my face, and showered me with kisses. Finally, she leaned her forehead to mine and whispered, "Let's get the marriage license tomorrow, okay? I'm scared that if we wait, something bad will happen." Her anxious clinging made me laugh helplessly. Our wedding was set for the 1st of next month. Anna pestered me until I agreed to get the certificate early. "Darling, I finally have a name now," she said, smiling. We walked toward the Maybach, marriage certificate in hand, when a voice called out, "George!" I paused and turned to see Willow holding Alicia's hand. Both had red eyes. Alicia pouted, voice trembling. "Dad." At the commotion, Anna lifted her gaze and shot Alicia a sharp look that made the girl hesitate. She clutched Willow's clothes and glared wide-eyed at Anna. Willow's face darkened. She recognized the woman who'd caused trouble at the wedding. Anna casually draped an arm over my shoulder, her narrow eyes still on Alicia. Her tone was light and cold. "Kid, eat whatever you like, but don't talk nonsense." Alicia bit her lip, mustering her courage. "He is my dad." She stepped up and pushed Anna, almost crying. "Don't touch my dad. Bad person, big bad person." Anna looked at the bratty child with a headache, silently thinking how quiet and well-behaved Lucas was. She promised herself her own child wouldn't turn out like this. She raised her eyes and gave Willow a pointed, dark look, as if to say, "If you can't control her, I will." Willow's anger flared, but she couldn't let Alicia make a scene. She stepped forward, tugged her daughter aside, and said firmly, "Alicia, stand still." As Alicia moved, her clothes came undone. Willow carefully buttoned them. I used to handle these small things. I'd thought Willow ignored such details, but clearly she'd been caring for Alicia. "Mr. Chan." "I'm sorry. We were too abrupt," Willow said, voice full of remorse. "It's fine," I replied. She looked at me, eyes brimming with nostalgia and guilt. She knew the man before her was the one who had died, but she didn't dare ask for forgiveness. Regret filled her from head to toe. Just as she was about to invite me to a meal, Anna lifted the marriage certificate, and the hand on my shoulder silently claimed me. "You married her?" Willow's voice caught trembling. "Yes," I said softly. Anna smirked. "Yep, still warm. We just got the certificate and ran into you." "What a coincidence, huh?" At that, anger flashed in Willow's eyes. She clenched her fists, forcing down the bitter swell in her chest. After a long pause, she managed, "Congratulations." I opened my mouth. But Anna cut in, "Thank you, Miss Liu. When we hold the wedding, we'll be sure to send you an invitation." Then she gave Willow no chance to speak, spun me around and led me away, watching us leave. Willow felt a stab of jealousy. She remembered when she was the one beside George. Now she had lost him. Alicia tugged at her. "Mom, Dad's walking away with someone else. Aren't we going after him?" "Chase?" Willow's legs felt heavy. She wasn't sure she had any right to chase him anymore. Back then, George had cared deeply for her and Alicia, and at his hardest moment, she chose Makoto. Now he was Madame Chan's son, his status and identity completely different. And beside him stood Anna, whose family background matched his. How could she possibly have the audacity to disturb his life now? Willow gritted her teeth, took Alicia's hand, and began walking in the opposite direction. "Alicia, let's let your dad pursue his own happiness." On the way back, Anna held my hand tightly as if afraid that if she loosened her grip, I would disappear. I knew what she was thinking. I sighed softly and smiled. "Anna, I'm not going anywhere, but if you keep squeezing my hand like this, I might just die from the pain." Anna took a deep breath, frowned, and finally released her grip. "Sorry, I'm just really scared." "Scared of what?" "Our bond isn't that deep. There's a 7-year gap between us. What if Willow shamelessly chases after you, and you get swayed by her?" Normally, Anna always appeared calm and composed, with a family upbringing that kept her emotions hidden. We had been together for a while now, and I had never seen her so troubled over anything. It seemed that she was genuinely worried that Willow might steal me away. I felt a little touched and somewhat amused. The old George is gone. His past and memories are just a passing breeze, never to return. In the person David choose is you, Anna. Upon hearing this, the tension in Anna's face eased a little. She turned her head to look at me, her expression unusually serious. Then can you kiss me every day just to seal the deal? I almost laughed at this childish request. I wasn't planning to respond. But just as I was about to look away, Anna's delicate hand suddenly cupped the back of my head, pulling me into a kiss. She kissed me deeply, as if trying to take all the air from my lungs, not releasing me until I was on the verge of suffocation. If you won't come to me, I'll come to you. No chance to escape, Anna said with a playful yet loving gaze, her voice incredibly sweet. Her words made my heart race uncontrollably. The day before our wedding, I received a delivery box. I thought it was a gift from Anna, but when I opened it, I found a Hettian jade peace knot. Inside was a handwritten note. This was the heirloom jade pendant your grandfather gave me when I married. Now I'm passing it on to you, wishing you a happy marriage. I instantly realized who had sent the jade pendant. A wave of complicated emotions spread through me. When I needed my family's care the most, they had given all their love to Makoto. Now that George was gone, they finally thought of compensating me. Maybe George would forgive them, but David wouldn't. I resealed the box and had it sent back to Mr. Wang. Young Master Chan says he appreciates Mr. Wang's gesture, but the item is too precious for him to accept. Mr. Wang should keep it. My father stared at the returned jade pendant for a long time, clearly stunned. Not long after, he fell seriously ill and began to lose his sanity. He would hold on to George's childhood photo album, telling anyone he met about George's childhood, often mistaking other people's sons for me, repeatedly saying, "Dad was wrong, I'm sorry." But all of this no longer mattered to me. Anna and I held a grand wedding, and it was called the Wedding of the Century. Not just because of the high-profile guests and dazzling stars, but also because of the historic reconciliation between Madame Chan and Madame Xu, two lifelong rivals. They had to sit at the same table for the sake of their younger generations, their faces polite, but their hearts still at odds. Throughout the event, Anna and I anxiously watched the two elderly women. Fortunately, in the end, they didn't argue. On our wedding night, I untied my tie, exhausted to the point where I felt like my bones might fall apart. Anna walked over slowly, unpinning her hair. Her fingers lightly grazed my jaw as she stared at me with an intense gaze. That look made me want to run away. But the next second she grabbed my wrist. Just as I was about to move, Anna pulled out a bottle of essential oil and began massaging my shoulders, though her technique was a bit clumsy. "What's on your mind, huh? Why's your face so red?" Anna teased with a mischievous smile, raising an eyebrow. "Wait, no. It's not bro anymore. It's husband now." She leaned in and gave me a light kiss on the lips, her voice seductive. "Husband, tonight is long and you're not allowed to say you're tired." I was speechless. I knew it. Anna, with her dark heart, wouldn't let me off that easily. Their intimate silhouettes by the window were seen by a woman outside the villa. Her face was deathly pale, and it felt as if 1,000 needles were stabbing her heart. "George!" Willow whispered, and if anyone had seen her lost expression, they would have thought they'd seen a ghost. Anna gently covered me with the blanket, kissed my forehead, and got up to leave the room. Glancing at the screenshot of the surveillance footage the steward had handed over, her narrow eyes narrowed and a cold chill radiated from them. "Let's go. We're going to have a little chat with Miss Liu." Under the cold white moonlight, Anna, dressed in a black gown, walked out of the villa and headed straight for Willow, who was standing in the distance. The two women exchanged a look, neither of them in the mood for pleasantries. Willow's anger was boiling over, almost transforming into a blade ready to tear Anna to pieces. "I was wondering why that Persian cat kept meowing so much today. Turns out it was because another one of its kind broke in." Anna lit a cigarette, took a drag, and slowly exhaled the smoke. The white mist was quickly blown away by the wind, revealing her mocking gaze. Willow's face turned ashen, and through gritted teeth she spat out, "Anna, you despicable little woman! Even if you trick George into coming back to you, he'll wake up one day. When he wakes up, he'll come back to me. and the three of us will be reunited sooner or later. Willow wasn't entirely confident, but she still felt that the bond they once shared was too deep to be broken so easily. And of course there was Alicia. Anna raised an eyebrow, her eyes darkening to the point that they seemed to swallow all the light. Just then a clear, childish voice rang out from behind. "Mom." Lucas, holding a robot, sleepily walked over and grabbed her hand. Anna's expression immediately softened, the anger in her eyes vanishing in an instant. She bent down, picked Lucas up, and said in a gentle voice, "Why aren't you asleep at this hour?" Lucas looked at Willow. "I'm afraid that bad aunt will bully you." The little guy's sharp eyes stared at Willow, making her face flush with embarrassment. Anna chuckled lightly, then turned to Willow to brag. "Did you hear that? My son, raised by David and me, just called you the bad aunt." She emphasized the word aunt. Lucas had gotten up in the middle of the night just to back Anna up. He nestled in her arms and in a crisp voice said, "Mom, let's go back. The wind outside is cold, and if you catch a cold, Dad will be heartbroken." Upon hearing this, Willow felt as though a knife had been stabbed into her heart. Her brows furrowed tightly, a feeling of unspeakable bitterness flooding her heart. Even though Alicia was here, she wouldn't be this clever or say something as thoughtful as, "I'm worried about Mom." At that moment, Willow's jealousy toward Anna reached its peak. Anna glanced at her out of the corner of her eye, holding Lucas as she walked back inside, deliberately saying, "All right, Mom will listen to you and Dad." The mother and son walked into the villa, leaving Willow standing in the cold wind. It was unclear how long she stood there. But eventually, Liu family's car appeared with its high beams on. The driver hesitated before speaking. "Miss, the old lady asked you to come home quickly. She said not to embarrass her in front of the Zhu family." Willow gritted her teeth, not expecting Anna to be so scheming. She had called her grandmother and reported her, leaving her no choice but to get into the car with a dark expression. The wedding of the century, for the Chan family, dominated the front pages of all major news outlets for an entire week. Everyone envied the fact that Chan's eldest son had married the beautiful and capable Anna. However, the Zhu family's eldest daughter, who rarely made a public appearance on social media, registered an account on Weibo that same night, posting only a few words, "It was I who climbed too high." After the wedding, Anna spoiled me like crazy. Luxury cars, watches, nothing was off limits. She always came home by 9 o'clock. No matter how important the drinking party or how much her friends begged her to stay, she only had one thing to say. "Sorry, guys. Curfew at 9! Anna made no secret of the fact that she obeyed me without question. People in the circle couldn't help but joke that the dignified eldest daughter of the Shu family had turned into a love-stricken woman after marriage. She raised her glass with no change in expression and said, "I enjoy it." The looks on everyone's faces were priceless. From then on, no one dared to say anything more. After all, no one wanted to be force-fed so much dog food. On my birthday, Anna threw a lavish celebration for me on a cruise, inviting all our friends. Lucas had grown into a handsome young boy and performed a violin piece for me on stage. "Dad, I love you." Lucas kissed my cheek, looking at me with eyes full of affection. Alicia, who had sneaked onto the cruise, witnessed the scene. Her eyes immediately filled with tears, and she bit her lip to hold them back. Dad didn't like disobedient children. When I headed to the lounge, Alicia rushed over and stopped me. With a cautious look, she carefully presented me a drawing. It was a picture of a birthday cake with 3 stick figures smiling beside it. "Dad, happy birthday." "Alicia misses you." I looked at Alicia. She had grown taller, her once round face now a little sharper, and her features resembled Willow's more and more. The little princess she used to be was now much gentler and clearer when she looked at people. I calmly took the drawing from her. "Thank you." "Where's your family?" "Go back now!" Alicia trailed behind me, looking wronged. "Mom doesn't know I came to find you. I had the butler bring me here." As soon as she spoke, several bodyguards from the Liu family rushed over, flustered. Little Miss, we finally found you." Seeing me, they looked awkward. Young Master Chan, we're terribly sorry. Little Miss has caused you trouble. "It's fine," I said coldly and turned to leave. The next second, Alicia gently grasped my fingertips. I don't want to go back. It's Alicia's fault. Alicia knows she was wrong. I'll change. With that, her eyes reddened again. Alicia won't eat snacks anymore. Whatever Dad doesn't allow, I won't do it. Please don't let them take me back. I felt a sharp pain in my heart. I paused for a moment before slowly saying, "Be good and go home." After saying that, I broke free from Alicia's grip and walked away. Afterward, Alicia would occasionally visit the Shu family year after year. Willow scolded her a few times, but Alicia didn't care and still secretly came to find me. Later, Lucas got accepted into the best university, and Alicia, with her dancing talent, became his schoolmate. Lucas told me that Alicia took great care of him at school. Once she even called him brother in front of others. Of course she did this to get closer to me. Anna kept a tight grip on Lucas, never allowing him to get too close to her. Even though Anna and I had reached middle age, Willow had never remarried. Anna remained vigilant, not allowing her any chance to come back into our lives. The year Lucas graduated, Anna and I attended his graduation party. As expected, Willow and Alicia were also there. They stood not far from us, looking at us as we took photos together, their eyes filled with envy. After a while, Alicia quietly moved closer, standing just under a meter away from me, trying to join the photo. Willow, not wanting to lose face, lowered her head and coughed twice, then joined her. However, I didn't give them a single glance the entire time. That same year, Mr. Wang passed away and entrusted his entire inheritance to me. The lawyer conveyed his final wish. Mr. Wang said that these assets are for you to dispose of as you see fit. For the first 30 years of my life, I had given everything to the Wang family. This inheritance was rightfully mine. I didn't want to be connected to the Wang family any longer, so I donated it all. On the day we went to donate to the welfare center, Anna was with me. And we were surrounded by reporters and the director of the center exchanging pleasantries. As we passed a street food stall, the city management ordered the vendor to leave. But the man refused and threw himself on the ground, throwing a tantrum. "I'm the eldest son of the Wang family. If you dare touch me, I'll make sure you regret it." Hearing the commotion, I looked over and saw a disheveled Makoto with white hair, arguing with the city management over the stall. There was a glaring scar on his face, a result of a prison fight. The privileged, scheming boy I once knew had long disappeared. As I watched, I didn't feel any sense of satisfaction. Instead, I felt a strange sense of fate playing tricks on me. Anna's gentle voice brought me back to the present. "David, what's wrong?" I smiled and shook my head, feeling at peace. "Nothing. Let's go." Everything from the past faded away like the wind. The future still held brighter years ahead. Lucas linked his arm with mine, glancing back at the vendor. When the vendor saw him looking, he quickly looked away and lowered his head in a hurry. Lucas thought to himself that this person was truly strange. The sunlight shone on my face, and I squinted my eyes, watching the blue sky in the distance as a flock of geese soared above, choosing their path. I smiled faintly. In this life, I had finally made the right choice.